so that these two cross, and it'll look like that when it's done. So you go about a 1/4 inch behind the leading edge and a 1/4 inch in front of the trailing edge, right above the hinge line at the rear one, and right at the back of the front fuselage piece on the front one. And of course it's about a 1/4 inch down from the bottom of the fuselage. And then of course we put a little bit of glue right in that center, right where they meet. We put a little bit of drop of glue there too. It's real important here to make sure it's flat on the nice flat table you got here. You just want to start, it doesn't matter if you start with the front or the back. And the measurements, you know, for the right at the trailing edge, it can be within, you know, probably a 1/2 inch and still be fine. What I find is I'm going to poke it into the foam just a little bit, and then I'll go out to the wing here and I'll look at where it's at, and then I'll flex the carbon a little bit so that I'm poking into the wing a little bit behind where the carbon actually ends at. And then give it some flex, make sure it's nice and straight, that it's not being bowed, and it just barely has to be poked into the foam here. And then I'll double check to make sure everything's staying straight. You're not forcing any of the foam crooked. It looks good, nice and flat. And then just put, you know, a decent drop around the connection points. Now when I do the vertical glue in here on the fuselage, I use a little bit smaller drop of glue, and after we get everything strung, then I'll lift the fuselage off the table, put it 90 degrees so I can put a bigger drop for these guys. We can do it good here on the wing because it's flat and the glue will spread out nicely, but here I don't want it running down the fuselage, so I just use a little drop here for now, just enough to hold it. And then I'm going to do the opposite side here, opposite wing. I'm going to make it symmetrical to the other one. It looks good. Double check for straightness. 90 degrees on the fuselage here. Looks good. Okay, in the back here, right above the hinge line, 1/4 inch down from the bottom of the fuselage, poke it in a little bit. Across it, you see where it touches the carbon here. Everything is lining up nice. It's down on the wing. Poke it in there just a little bit. Straight, not quite touching this guy here. I may move it in just a little bit further. There we go. And still nice and flat on the table. Just about got it. Let that set up for just a second. Actually, we can go ahead and use the regular CA here. This is non-foam safe. And just put a drop where the two carbons cross here. Hold them together. Careful not to use too much and drip it onto the foam or the wing. In fact, you can use some piece of plastic or just something in between so it doesn't drop onto the wing. It'll melt it. We're going to let that set up. Alrighty, now we can lift it off the table. Turn it 90 degrees. Now we can put a little bit bigger drop where the carbon meets the fuselage here. A little bit bigger drop of glue. Flip it over and do the same on the other side. Everything looks good. Back to the table here. And the next step will be go ahead and open up your little Ziploc pack here. And it's going to have some 5-inch carbon 030 for the fuselage bracing and tail bracing. That's they're 5 inches by 030. Go ahead and remove the tape off of them. Just like I did with the wing wires, you want to take your sandpaper and just kind of sharpen up the ends just a touch. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off at the tail, and we're going to put the cross brace in here. Starting off similar to this one, where it's right at the leading edge of the elevator, maybe a 1/4 inch back again, and then about a 1/4 inch above the bottom of the fuselage. And once you get the tail one on, then you just kind of weave it like a basket all the way up to the front until you're out of them. Again, about a 1/4 inch behind the leading edge of the wing. Just kind of line it up and make sure it's swept forward to it's about the U on Leelinger models on this side, and about the M on the Leelinger models on this side.